Welcome back to Mondays with Dr. Crystal. So, ever since I got into med school, I've been getting texts and calls from my family and friends asking me medical questions. When I was in med school, they used to make fun of me all the time because I would always say, oh, we haven't gotten to that yet. But at this point, I've finished my family medicine residency, I finished my sports medicine fellowship, so now, theoretically, I have all the answers. So today, I'm gonna have my roommate and my good friend Josh on to ask some questions that he's been wanting answered. Let's get started, shall we?
Oh, hey!
Hey! Alright, so what do you want to talk about?
You brought me here. Doctor stuff. Like, are we getting right into it, or are we just, like, doing a little, like...
I think we should, appease the people first, tell them how we know each other. So, do you remember when we met?
No.
I don't either. We met in college, but I don't remember exactly when. So, Josh, thank you for being the first guest on the show.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Okay, so I guess we should just get down to it.
Okay.
So, I know that you've been saving up your medical questions for this day. Do you want to ask your first one?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the most pressing medical question that I have, can you really consider it a medical question?
I don't know. Tell me what it is.
So I really want to know, can you pass a PBT if you use a vodka tampon?
What's a PBT?
A breathalyzer test? I don't know what it stands for.
So for our viewers at home, first of all, never use a vodka tampon. That's not something you should ever do. Josh,
Inquiring minds.
We'll let it slide, but you should never be thinking about how to pass a breathalyzer either, because why would you get breathalyzed if you get pulled over in your car? If you drink, don't drive. But for the sake of medical knowledge, we'll answer his question. So, a breathalyzer test doesn't actually look at the amount of alcohol that's in your blood, it looks at the amount of alcohol that's on your breath. So technically, if you did use a vodka tampon in an orifice other than your mouth, you would pass a breathalyzer test.
Good to know. Not that I'm planning on using that for future endeavors.
All right, well, that was quite a way to start off the day.
Started off with a bang.
Do you have any more questions?
Yeah.
I hope so, because we just started.
But I don't remember what my other one is. Hold on. Oh, yeah. So, when you get your tubes tied, do they actually tie your tubes?
Like in knots?
Yeah. Like the song.
What song?
Can you tie it in a knot? Can you tie it in a bow? Can you throw it over your shoulder? No?
So no, they don't actually tie your tubes in a knot. Usually, I actually have never been in a surgery where they tie their tubes, but I think there's a few ways to do it, but the kind I know about is they usually put a clip on it. It can actually be reversed in some cases, but we don't recommend that anybody ever get their tubes tied if they're planning on having kids in the future. We usually try to make sure they never ever want to have kids again if we're going to do it. Yeah, so it can occasionally be reversed, and then also it can fail. So there have been times where people have gotten pregnant after they got their tubes tied. So, but I guess the short answer to your question is no, they do not tie them in a knot or a bow.
All right, there it is.
All right. Question number 3?
Is that weird? Hold on, pause it. Right, so another question I had. You know that old wives' tale about how cracking your knuckles causes arthritis?
Yes, I do know about that.
All right, well, on that train of thought, why are some people's knuckles so much bigger than others?
Are you talking about yours?
A little.
Well, let me drop some knowledge on you here.
Drop that dum-da-da. Don't drop that dum-da-da.
So first, to talk about the first part of that question, the old wives' tale, that's not true. If you crack your knuckles, you can crack them all day long, it's not going to cause arthritis. But the reason why some people's knuckles are so fat, I guess one of the reasons would be arthritis. That's probably the most common reason people would have fat knuckles, because essentially when people get arthritis in their knuckles, there gets extra little bony spurs in there, and they get fluid in the joints, and then it makes their knuckles big. Other reason, it could just be the way they're born. I don't think you have arthritis in your knuckles. But yeah, those are the biggest reasons that I can think of. Or I guess if you have an injury or something, it could swell up. But to have just big knuckles all the time, it's probably just the way you were born.
What is
big
it
boned.
that makes that sound when you crack your knuckles?
Well, now you're trying to make this difficult for me now. So there are a couple of different theories of what that sound is. Love that.
Why are you laughing?
But both of them have to do with the gases that are in the joint fluid. So each of your joints like this, there's a little capsule around it, and inside is fluid. There are nitrogen and other gases in your joint fluid, and so there are some studies that people have done which make them think that when you crack your knuckles and stretch the joint capsule, that the bubbles being made is what causes the cracking, and some people think the other way, that it's the bubbles going the other way. And so it doesn't really matter, I guess, because it's not gonna do anything bad unless you injure. There have been reports of people injuring their fingers while cracking them. Plus, it's really annoying, so please don't do it. But it will not give you arthritis.
Good to know. I do have another question.
Okay.
How do allergies work? Like, how can you be allergic to grass?
So.
For real, a lot of people are allergic to grass.
Yeah. Wow, we could do a whole video on this and it would be really boring. But essentially,
Quick.
When your body comes into contact with something, and it could be pretty much anything. Like you said, people are allergic to grass, they're allergic to trees, pollen, animals. So they come into contact with something that their body sees as foreign, and it, for some reason, decides to make antibodies against it. And it causes all these cells to go off called mast cells that release all the stuff that makes your allergies bad, essentially. And so usually when someone comes in contact with something the first time, they don't have an allergic reaction. It's really like the second time or later that they'll start having an allergic reaction. So I guess, does that answer your question?
I think so.
Yeah. So do you have another one?
Actually, I do. Do you go to the doctor for things like physicals, or do you just diagnose yourself or write your own prescriptions?
So, I do go to the doctor when I need something like a physical or a prescription. It's not a great thing when you start trying to diagnose yourself because you can't really remove yourself from the situation. So I think it's important for everyone to have either a family doctor or some sort of general practitioner that they see, whether they're a medical professional or just anyone really. So everyone should have somebody that they go see for regular health maintenance stuff. And so no, I don't write my own prescriptions. You can write prescriptions for yourself, but it's frowned upon and unethical. So the short answer is yes, I do have a doctor.
All right, you heard it here.
All right, well, if you don't have any more questions, I guess we can go ahead and wrap it up now.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks for stopping by.
It's a pleasure.
Keep on writing down your questions and maybe we'll have you back in a couple weeks. But I'll see you upstairs later.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. What the heck?